okay with, ransacking a small business. That's not right. But what I'm trying to explain to people is that it's like a math problem. Doesn't matter what you try to do to obfuscate, 3 plus 2 equals 5. So what just happened is a clear example of this is what happens when you do what's been done. This is gonna happen. And here we are. So Cornel West, as usual, brilliant, breaks it down perfectly, and I hope he's allowed on mainstream media more. But more importantly, I think he's one of very few voices who has the moral legitimacy and standing to lead these protests and harness it towards positive ends. See, I've always told you guys on this show, I've always maintained I'm not a fan of the kinds of protests where it's just like, we're just blowing off steam. We're just angry, and so we're going to get out there. What are our goals? Don't know. We're just mad. It's an amorphous show of rage. I get it. I get where it comes from, but that will be defeated. That's not a question. It will be defeated, especially when the government steps up their crackdown. It'll be defeated. So what you need is the kind of integrity, honor, and moral vision and leadership to harness this energy and harness this will towards positive change. I mean, imagine you had Cornel West and Killer Mike, and we'll get to his speech in a second. It's brilliant. But imagine we had them leading it and harnessing the energy towards the solutions laid out in Campaign Zero. End broken windows policing, community oversight boards, limit use of force, independently investigate and prosecute, community representations, body cameras on the cops, no exceptions, training for de-escalation, end for-profit policing, demilitarization, fair police union contracts. Imagine the energy was...
Okay, so Kyle loved to just throw in a ton of high words per minute there. Lots of changes to police departments around the country. I was speaking with somebody, and we were recommending that 80% of police departments be furloughed. That could be one of the best and most immediate solutions to a financial crisis, as well as a policing crisis, as opposed to a murder investigation. But the problem is the structure of the laws and the actual number of laws and the laws that are out there, particularly regarding prostitution and chemicals. So here we go. It's June 1st, 2020, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're watching Secular Talk with Kyle Kalinske talking about Cornel West's recent appearance on CNN.
Was harnessed towards that. Imagine the energy was harnessed towards UBI and a living wage and Medicare for all. But you need that kind of leadership. You need the leadership. I know some people are very much in favor of like a decentralized thing, and there are reasons for that, but the only way you get the real change is by having a vision, being consistent, being persistent, and being unapologetic. So I hope that he kind of takes the reins of this, because I think he's one of the few voices who's equipped to lead in this moment. I'm not a big believer in hardcore identity politics, but I don't think a white kid from the suburbs like myself is fit and equipped to lead in a moment like this. You need somebody with the standing and moral clarity and legitimacy to lead. Cornel West, Killer Mike, Nina Turner. Somebody needs to take the reins of what's happening here and bring it the kind of stability, leadership, and clear defined goals that it deserves, that we all deserve.
This might be the most reliable way for ordinary creators to cash in on huge...
Alright, everybody, this is DayTradeReport.com and DrudgeReport.com. We are going to watch one final video by Styx Hexenhammer. We're going to close out. Some of his recent titles are The George Floyd Riots, Amazing Atheist Insinuates That I Threatened, Not One Mention of Riots by any Lame Street Network, Mayor of Minneapolis Completely Insane, If the Democrats had any dignity, they'd rebuke, White House Gets Briefly Locked Down.
Alright everyone, now we return to the subject of George Floyd again. I figure somebody should probably talk about him a little bit because it seems like nobody remembers him anymore. Like the dude that initially gets killed by the Minneapolis police in an obvious wrongful death, and my initial, week ago response was sympathy for him and understanding, hey, if people are getting rowdy over this, I'm not surprised about that fact. Unfortunately, what appears to have happened is that most of the people now involved, especially with riots in the United States, in multiple cities having nothing to do with Minneapolis, again, including places with no apparent police brutality issue, none of these people even know who he is. I doubt that some of these people that are rioting right now even know George Floyd's name. They don't even know what they're rioting about. A lot of these people, I'd say 90% of these people are just there for the riot. They're there because they want to do some violence or they want to do looting. The other 10% are far left and politically motivated, and they're whipping the other 90% into a frenzy. Now that ratio could be a little bit different, but that's probably a best guess scenario. You get 1,000 people there, something like maybe 100 of them actually have any political motivations. Most of the rest are just there to break things. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are even motivated at this point by police brutality. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad reflection. This is why we can't get anything accomplished. All these people are like, well, nothing's being done about police brutality. Well, what do you expect, dude? The second that anything bad happens, you make a list of demands, and even when they're fulfilled, you continue to burn your own cities to the ground. The police, at that point, have no choice but to respond. Yeah, no shit. They're firing rubber bullets at a crowd of people that's engaged in assault and arson. I wonder why. That's not even their fault at that point. I'd hate to be an honest cop more than pretty much anything else in the United States because you get lumped in with the cops that do dumb shit, like the officer that killed George Floyd. You get ridiculed by people on the left. You get used as a pawn by people on the right most of the time. Probably offered coke by your commanding officer half the time. It's fucking nuts. And I feel so sorry for George Floyd because I have a feeling. I wonder if in his dying moments, when his heart stopped, unfortunately, I wonder if he thought briefly about, oh shit, this is gonna fuck the United States hard. I don't think he probably would have enjoyed that fact. I don't think that he died a happy man for more reasons than one. If he thought about it at all, I have a feeling he's like, oh, well, there goes the neighborhood literally because they're gonna burn it to the ground, essentially. And it's just nuts. The people's response has been deplorable, to tell the truth. To use a common term that's often deployed by the liberals, I would say that the rioters are deplorable at this point. They're disrespecting this man's legacy, which essentially is getting wrongfully killed. Now he's going to be known more for the riots that resulted thereafter than his own actual killing, than the murder of him. To be known primarily for something external to oneself is basically like a second death. It's sort of like you become nothing more than an ideological pawn for people, and it's a dehumanization, basically. These people don't know anything about this dude's personal life. I guess he tried to pass off a counterfeit note or something. Again, that's not a killing offense. At the same time, his wrongful death isn't a reason to burn Sonny's wigs to the ground. Again, you look at the list of businesses that have been torched. Increasingly, they're not Target and Walmart. They're small family and regional retail outlets. In some cases, educational facilities, which, they're closed anyway, so who fucking cares? At this point, the schools are useless because the politicians won't let the kids use them. I think not teaching civics in school is one of the problems that we're currently seeing. People don't know their constitutional rights. They also don't know the difference between a protest and a riot. They don't understand what civil disobedience is. They don't understand the concept of nonviolent change-making. This is one thing that I've always, like when these people justify these riots, we say, well, nothing was being done. Nothing was being done, so what do you expect? People have to throw rocks now. I see people who are like libertarian who tend to have a lot more self-control. Occasionally glowing one-ing it up, and making like the same dumb argument. if you have not exhausted nonviolent possibilities, nobody was talking about police brutality. They spent 24 hours talking about it, and then they went nuts and rioted. Sorry, but that's not the proper procedure. No, first you attempt to petition